Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel-toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I quote it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
And there we go.
And that's the season.
And scene.
We made it.
Sherrod, you got a little noise here. Yep. He's at the Garden. There's some.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy in the room here all of a sudden. I'm not really sure why, but it's Mike Gorman Day, so you don't know what the hell's going to happen. So
that's right.
Welcome to the end. Thank you, people. Again, trickling in still. Who have watched. There's a couple all 82ers out there. I know it. None of us made it all 82. Load management along the way. Some people have side hustles, gigs, teaching. But we made it. We made it to the end. And so here we are. We've been waiting for this pretty much since the season started. But honestly, for real, for the last 2 months.
Yeah, well, it really got bad, though, the last couple of weeks.
This thing has been over for a while, and here we are, end of the season. We'll run through a little bit of today. We'll give Mike Gorman his due. Today was the Celtics celebrated the legendary TV voice of the Boston Celtics, who's hanging it up after the season. He's got a few more games here, shared games that NBC is going to get to continue to broadcast in the first round of the playoffs, but then that's it. Mike's hanging it up. So we'll talk a little bit about Gorman, any personal anecdotes anyone wants to share. That's cool too. And really, I think right now we're going to be looking at obviously less the game and really more the story. So let's paint the picture before we get started, guys. And what's going on is it looks like we are locked in to the 76ers and the Heat staying in that 7-8 spot. Yeah, get the hard hat ready.
It's ready to go, baby.
76ers,
right by my side.
The way the results are breaking, the Knicks and Bulls are going to overtime. It's the last straw, the last domino to fall here in terms of seeding. The Knicks can overtake the Bucks. They'll still play they'll still be 2-3, but it'll affect first round opponents potentially and also home court in that second round. But they are locked into that 2-3 situation. It looks like the way things broke down today, the Sixers needed help in order to get out of that 7 spot, but everybody held serve. The Magic won and the Pacers won big, and they hung on to those final 2 spots there. And even though Philly won and did everything they could kind of with Embiid returning, and I mean, I'm talking everything they could, they've won 8 straight games. They finished in a 3-way tie, but by virtue of 3-way tiebreakers and Orlando winning the division, they are out. They are they're in play-in land. It's locked in right now. Philly is the 7, Miami is the 8, Chicago is the 9, Atlanta as the 10. The last thing remaining to discuss is the 2-3. So here we are, guys. Sure, Chicago and Atlanta are possible, but Philly and or Miami is the most likely first round opponent. How do we feel?
Sherrod, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I normally I'm all for bringing Philadelphia into the fold. Just bring them. I don't feel it this year. I don't want to see the first round. And it's not that I think Philly can win. I just think Philly's going to make you work so much harder. And we've talked about this before. When you get to the playoffs, you want to get from one round to the next with as little wear and tear on your team individually and collectively as possible. And I just think Philadelphia, the way they're playing, the fact that Embiid is back, the fact that he's one of the few players in the Eastern Conference that you can conceivably see could carry a team to 1 or 2 victories pretty much by his damn self. I don't want to see that first round if you're the Boston Celtics. You'd much rather see one of those other 3 teams. Yes, even Miami and all the history between them and the Celtics, you'd still rather see them than Philly.
Yeah, so I think from entertainment standpoint, I want Philly. I think that's just always a fun series. I love the Embiid, angle always, and just Boston versus Philly two cities with a lot of, obviously crazy sports fans and pride. So that's fun. Like that would be a fun first round. I think if you're the Celtics, you'd rather see the Heat. I'm not a believer in the Heat this year. I honestly can't remember like one thing the Heat did this year that like made like the end. Like, did the Heat make a sound this year? I know that they're going to make the playoffs.
The biggest sound I think the Heat made was when Duncan Robinson got in Jaylen Brown's face.
Yeah, right.
Which was comical to me. I found it really comical, but
I wonder if he'll keep that same energy.
I hope so.
If they meet in the playoffs, I think the
really
Celtics would steamroll the Heat this time around. Again,
wouldn't it feel good?
It would feel good. It would feel good. I mean, at the same time, it's not the same. I feel like they don't have that magic. It doesn't feel like they've got that whatever it was that they found, lightning in a bottle, that playoff series. But I think they'll obviously I would pick them to beat either team, Sherrod. But I agree with you. I think Philly would make it a little bit more difficult. Again, you're playing the reigning MVP, and he might be a little banged up, but he's still playing pretty damn well since he came back onto the court. And so anytime you could avoid playing a guy that good, you want to. So yeah, if you're the Celtics, you'll take who you get, and you should feel confident you're going to beat them. But I think obviously Sixers might make it a little bit more physical and difficult. And I think whereas the Heat, the only thing you're fighting against the Heat is your demons. I don't think the talent's there to compete with the Celtics.
I think you're probably right, Jimmy. Excuse me. I think what's funny is it's the side of your brain that doesn't trust the Celtics that is not yours, one's. The side of one's brain that still doesn't fully trust the Celtics, that has any apprehension over whomever they are playing in the first, second, or third round, because really only if you believe that the Celtics are weak or going to revert to some of the old habits that have cost them in the past would you have any reason to have any fear of anyone, because in reality, the Celtics should be able to handle all of them and not be concerned. So I think that's what it comes back down to is, again, they're too good to be worried about matchups. It's really more a matter of, are they going to be, I think the first round comes down to, are they awake enough in the first round, and which team might catch them off guard, pull a Buster Douglas, they're not ready to fight, like which team might catch them if they're not fully ready, which is why I've always kind of advocated for the one that you can sleepwalk through a little until you realize, all right, let's get serious and let's go. So it shouldn't matter. But I don't know if it does. I'll flip this to you. Do the Heat or the Sixers fear the Celtics?
Say that again.
Does whoever's coming in to play Boston, if it's one of those two teams, do they fear the Celtics, or they're coming in here like, we can beat these guys?
I think they should fear this. I mean, listen, I don't think if you're a team, you can't fear anybody. You can't approach it that way, or else you'll lose. So I think they're gonna be confident in themselves, but I don't think that they're looking at the Celtics as a team with a bunch of weaknesses. And I don't think there's a reason to be like, these guys are front runners, these guys are soft, blah blah blah. But if you're an opponent, you can't go in scared of anybody. You might still lose, but you shouldn't fear them. If you're either of those teams, you deserve the right to be in the playoffs, and you've made it that far, and you got to go out there and just hype yourself up and say that you're going to take these guys down. That being said, you have to take the Celtics. This year's Celtics team, you have to take them seriously. If you don't, you will get run. You will get run out of the. You will get.
I think so, but I feel like you're going to have a lot of people out there who are going to nationally be like, I could see the Celtics choking because of some past things.
It's low hanging fruit.
It is low hanging fruit. We saw Shaq do it too, but I do think people want to see that, all right, what you got, sort of thing.
Yeah, they want to see the Celtics blow out. Yeah, if the Celtics blow out their first round opponent, that's like, these guys are not effing around this year. That's
all right.
What it is.
But I'll be right back. Taking 2 seconds.
Yeah, but a lot of that stems from history. The doubters are going to look and say, well, you know what? This is not the first time the Celtics are going into the postseason favored in many rounds and didn't get it done. So why should this year be different? I think that you're going to certainly see that sentiment shared. The one difference I will say about this team is that they're not just winning, they're beating the breaks off of teams. I mean, this has been a historic season in terms of the beatdowns that they've administered. And I'm talking about the 50-point plus wins. The fact that this team right now has one of the top 5 all-time greatest single seasons in terms of wins and losses in franchise history. So you may not fear them, but when you start looking at the receipts that they've been racking up all season, you should be worried about them, because the way that they have been playing consistently this season, and consistency should not be confused with all the time. Consistency is when you show a pattern of doing certain things more often than not. And what they've shown more often than not, they're not just beating teams, they're beating teams to a pulp. And that should, in theory, at an absolute bare minimum level, raise your awareness that we need to play up some of our best basketball just to compete with them. Forget about beating them. To stay in a damn game, we need to play well. And that is kind of scary when you're preparing for a first-round matchup where your best might just be good enough to compete with them, but may not be enough to beat them. That's the reality that teams have to look themselves in the mirror and face.
Let's call it what it is, though, John. Let's just say what you want to say. It's not do teams fear the Celtics. It's do teams think that Tatum and Brown can be killers and can get the job done? Because that's what the Celtics
not. Yeah, the Celtics not choke this year? Are they not going to choke?
That's right, but when we say Celtics, we're talking about Tatum and Brown, because the story that's not going to be the story for Drew Holiday or Porzingis or Pritchard and Hauser and all those guys. It's gonna come down to, can Tatum and Brown get over that hump? Can they be Kobe like they want to be, or are they going to be, Paul George? No offense, but that's really what it comes down to when we talk about this stuff. So it's a huge playoff series or playoff run for those two guys.
So to follow on that, Jimmy, so that's the thing is, and this will be the story throughout. And again, you really want to see it, and just to see how they're playing, and if it fully carries over, as Sherrod said. They have receipts. They've been doing this to teams all year, good teams all year. But it is all Tatum and Brown, and we've said that from the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how quickly the narrative changes on these guys if they stumble or come up short or falter along the way, because they are on top of the world.
Get that label.
Jason Tatum is in the face of the NBA conversation. They go out early this year. Jason Tatum goes into you're never going to win with Tatum as your guy conversation. And that's who he is until he gets rid of it. They've had the benefit of the doubt by being young, by having early success, by maybe not having a complete team around them, and it maybe being a little bit early for them. That's all gone now. This is absolutely all on them. So it is entirely going to be, the judgment is entirely on these guys, and how much people, whether it's fear them or are concerned that these guys are going to beat them. Again, I think that'll be the narrative. I think the success of this team, the success will be the totality of everything that they have here. It's going to be because they do what they do and use all of their parts and their pieces. But I think the failure will be on Tatum and Brown if they lose, fair or not fair.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's 100% accurate. Yeah, they're gonna get the brunt of it, certainly if they fall short of a championship. And I guess depending on how well they play, we'll get,
because they're not supposed to. This team's supposed to win it. They've been supposed to win it all year. Right.
And that's the hard part, I think, that's I think why some players, or not even just about sports, but at some point the joy of it doesn't become fun anymore. It's almost just like exhausting trying to constantly meet or exceed the expectations that's placed, or your own expectations. So after you win, that's the idea of the next one. But I think you're right, John. I mean, they're going to get 100% of the blame. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. They're going to get 100% of the blame if they lose. Depending on how well they play will determine how much the percent of the success they get. There's always going to be, well, obviously, Holiday and Porzingis came in and they helped. But if those two guys, here and there within the, I'm not saying every single game they get a drop 40, but if they make it so that it's fairly obvious that they are here to make a statement and show that they are, first team, second team, all-star, perennial all-star type players, and they're not just in the regular season, we're talking playoff level. If they can show that, then that will elevate their status in this league. There's no way around that. That's what fans are going to remember. And that's what happened to Kawhi, right? I mean, that's what brought brings these guys to the next level.
The entire Big Three 2.0, the Garnett, Pierce, Allen, every one of those guys was a stat hound and a good individual player and not a winner until they were a winner. And then you look back and say, well, take lessons from these guys, heart of a champion. You can completely rewrite your own story here, or write 100%. Your own story.
Took those guys a lot later in their lives.
If you're Jason Tatum, NBA Finals MVP, that's forever,
right.
Forever.
Nobody
take your
can
30
touch
points,
that.
take your first team all NBA, take your 300 million and flush it. Means nothing. Finals MVP means something, So again, it's a big deal here, and I think that's that's what we've got going on. And again, I think this isn't doubt. This is the possibilities. I think we're just all dying to see it. Thank you, Pete, and thanks to everybody who's been with us all year. Really do appreciate you guys, especially hanging through some of these friggin'
sometimes the show might be more interesting than the games. Some of these games we have to sit through.
Jeez Louise.
Might be biased, but
yeah, I like it. I think they're serious. It's I'm confident, but again, I need to see it.
We're not saying that they're not gritty and grinding. We're just saying, can you win the game? Can you do what you need to do? It's not that they're not trying. It's just, can you be the best player on the court or the best two players on the court and take arguably the best team that I think most NBA fans would consider the Celtics the best team in the league this year, and finish the job. Otherwise, you're chokers. It's not going to matter. No one cares how well you play in the regular season.
Nope.
It'll change immediately. It'll actually be a bad thing how well you played in the regular season and how you came up short. It'll be used against you.
Sure, Dog Pound. I'll give you a shout out. I don't know what you're about, but sure. Thank you for hanging.
Dog Pound Prod. Maybe
Prod.
Producer of some sort.
Oh, he's a prod. Producer boy. Louise, I agree. Finish the job. Louise, hasn't it been really nice that we haven't had Jaylen Brown to talk about for 2 straight days in one direction or the other? Isn't that great? Less stress, right? Are they going to talk about him? Are they going to say bad things about him? Do I have to sit here all day?
We are talking about him, actually.
Yeah? Do we have to do, it's great, right? We don't have to talk about that. It's pretty good stuff. Bobby Manning and Josue's wiping tears out of his eyes. He'll eventually join us on the Garden Report here. Bobby Manning as well. As we said, Mike Gorman, and we will talk a little bit about Mike later on in the broadcast.
You're going to get some context to Josue's tears, or you're just going to say that he's crying?
No, he cries at every game.
It's an emotional time right now. Everyone's emotional.
He's a bit of a crier. While we wait for those guys to hang around, we'll tell you a little bit about Prize Picks, one of our sponsors here, #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America. Get after. You want to get in on the action. All you have to do is download the app. Super easy to do. And put in that code CLNS. You get a deposit match up to 100. It's play-in time, okay? We're here, and the play-in games start this weekend, then NBA playoffs. In order to play Prize Picks, all you have to do is just pick some of your favorite players. You don't even have to like the players. Just pick players, pick more or less, and watch the winnings roll in. That's it. Pick a stat, more.
And you can hate the player and just pick less on him.
They're going to score more. They're going to score less. Doesn't matter. In fact, yeah, exactly. Pick on the guys you hate and pick less. Tatum haters, game 1 playoffs, take the less.
There's no Tatum haters in here, John. There's only lovers.
Take less. Take less if you have to. Again, like I said, sign up. It's super fun. It's super easy to do. Once you're in there, you're really gonna enjoy it. So again, promo code CLNS. Download that app. Get a deposit match up to 100. We also want to tell you about PXG. Those people in there trying to work on their golf game, getting back out there. You want the clubs? That's right. But I'll tell you something right now. Yeah, sure. Clubs are great, but most of you suck. And the clubs don't make it. Clubs don't make a difference. But you want to. Sometimes the best you're going to do is look good. And PXG, while they absolutely are specializing in some of the best state-of-the-art clubs, and if that's your bag, go get your clubs. But I guarantee, I don't know if the clubs will make you play better, but I guarantee you're going to look better if you check out some of PXG's apparel. Go to pxg.com/garden. Save 10% on all the apparel. We got great stuff they sent to us. It's awesome. Really light, airy, breathable polos, quarter zips, really, really good stuff. Everybody's in there. You walk through those stores, you walk through other places, and you're like, I'll grab one of these. I guess it, and
Right.
they're all mid. They're not great. These are great. This is great apparel. Check it out. pxg.com/garden. Save 10%.
It's like what Dion said. Look good, feel good, play good. You got to just
look the part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Prop Joe. Look the part, be the part, mother effer. If anybody who's a Wire fan right there, but that's fine.
Too.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're back to it. 76ers, Heat, Hawks, or Bulls. I think it's fair.
What happened in this overtime game? Is there a winner?
Huh?
Bulls, Knicks.
The Bulls and the Knicks
wow.
is 2.1 seconds left. I have it right now in a 1-point game. So
Knicks are up
we're
one.
still in it.
Interesting.
Knicks are up by 1.
Knicks win and they become the 2 seed. Is that correct?
They're the 2 seed.
Yeah.
That is that. Knicks win and they are the 2 seed. So we're still sitting on that. Yeah, it's close, baby. It's close. We'll update you that. I'm sure the chat will probably beat us to it as soon as that happens right now.
You can't trust the chat, though.
They've thrown us. I trust the chat more than Bobby sometimes. He's led me astray more.
Wow.
While we wait for that final, let's talk a little bit about some of the action we saw tonight. Peyton Pritchard, possibly the best moment of the game was Jacoby Brissett snatching a rebound right out of Peyton Pritchard's hands right at the end of the game, and then that prevented him from getting a triple-double, and then Joe calling a timeout just to bench Brissett's ass, which he did.
What the hell was he thinking,
Hauser
man?
came back in. He came in like Superman. Peyton was like, I got it. And Brissett's like, oh. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Syracuse selfish
I
players,
said Jacoby.
man.
I said I would say Jacoby 8 million times. I'm amazed I've only called him Jacoby Brissett a couple times. O'Shea. Yes. O'Shea.
Did you say Jacoby again?
I'm honestly, I can't believe I ever didn't call him Jacoby all year. So while people will make fun of this one, it's a miracle I ever called him O'Shea. But that's what O'Shea Brissett did. Oh my goodness gracious.
Too bad. Yeah.
The fans did get mad.
Bad idea.
Read the room, Brissett. Damn.
Yeah.
You just don't do that.
But anyway, another Peyton Pritchard is either the greatest garbage time player in the history of the NBA or would be scoring 25 points a game on a team like the Wizards. I'll ask you this. We asked it last game. Peyton Pritchard starts for the Wizards and plays 35 minutes a game all year long. He averages blank.
20.
We'll go 17. 17.
It's the Wizards. Like they're just shot chucking, right? I mean, he can get 20 shots and 20 points.
Yeah.
Him and who's the other guy in Washington right now?
They have no other guys. They're a bunch of
Poole, yeah. Him and Poole will just combine for 50 shots a game.
Poole would end up punching Pritchard
Totally.
for taking too many of his shots.
Oh, he might be surprised at the retaliation.
Yeah.
Pritchard will not take that and just call it a day. So
the P party, man. We've been. It's been fun watching him, turn into a real important role player on this team. And it's all about opportunity. And he's getting it, whether it's garbage time or not. He's getting it. He's making the most of it.
Knicks hold on to win. They are the 2 seed. Bucks fall to 3. Again, they lose no more than home court advantage. But holy crap, the bracket for the Celtics. Yeah, you might not like that first matchup, but I mean the Orlando Cleveland on the second round there, assuming you're getting through is whatever, like
such a whiff.
What it's that I mean, again, it is a cakewalk to the Eastern Conference final. What did I say earlier in the year? I said like after game like 30 or 40, I was like the next meaningful game they play is game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that's kind of where it's been headed all year long. And
it feels. I mean, just
I said that last game. I think anybody thinking Tatum's still in that first team is deluding themselves. I think
Brunson just took them into the 2 seed here.
Brunson snatched it from him. He snatched it from him. Go ahead, Sherrod. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that the Celtics right now, the way things are looking, they're going to have a harder time getting out of the first round than the second round.
or the third, possibly. That's what I mean. It's like Philly is the worst matchup possibly in the playoffs.
This is, I mean, it's literally like it's going to get easier for them to get to the finals once they get past the first stage, because that's going to.
Eastern Conference Finals is going to be difficult, though.
I think that first round matchup might be harder, though. I think it might be harder, especially if it's Philly. Philly's got a better coach.
If it's not Philly, I'm not concerned about it.
I mean,
I think Philly, because of the Embiid factor, and obviously Maxi's been excellent, but the Embiid factor and just how that kind of messes with things. And yes, I understand everything about it. Is he in game shape? Can he beat him in 7? Do they have enough horses all the way around? Look, you're throwing, that's a guy you don't want to deal with necessarily here. And it presents a lot of problems. And Philly was this close to ending your season and probably costing Joe his job and possibly causing an even bigger blow up of the franchise than happened because they got to where they got to. So it was close, but it does a whole bunch of things. It puts your bigs in foul trouble. It changes up what you do. It might force you to play more double big, thus kind of taking you out of the type of thing that you normally want to do there. It might mean more Cornet minutes. So I don't know.
It's going to be hell, that first round series for the Celtics. It's just going to be. Jimmy, I hope I'm wrong on this one. I really, really do. But Philly's the best team in that bunch. The best of that
bottom bunch, yeah.
That bottom bunch, yeah. But I'm saying, if we take Philly out of that and you start looking at them compared to New York, Milwaukee, they're in that top 3, top 4 in the East. If we're talking, I'll take the Celtics out of the picture. Look at the rest of the teams that are going to be in the postseason. Philly is top 3.
And 4.
You're going to see them first. You're going to see them first crack potentially.
I put them 4. I think both Milwaukee and New York deserve that 2-3. Even though Milwaukee's struggling, obviously, I still think, again, if you're playing Milwaukee or New York, they've advanced 2 rounds too, and they're theoretically playing good basketball. So if Milwaukee gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think there's a lot less doubt around them because they've just taken down, whoever it is, including maybe let's call it the Knicks, a team that a lot of people think are, the hottest team, and obviously Brunson's playing well. So if that situation occurs, you're playing a Bucks team that probably is riding on a lot more momentum than they were for most of the regular season. It's a fresh start for all these teams. The records get reset now, and if they can get Giannis back healthy, again, Giannis and Lillard are 2 of the top. You could argue that they're the best 1-2 players in the NBA. You can make that argument. I'm not saying it's automatic, but they're up there. And so you play them in the Eastern Conference Finals with some momentum. If they're feeling good about themselves, they've got a roster. Lopez, and you can go down the line. Middleton. They've got some help on that team. New York, I think there's still a talent issue there. I kind of look at them almost like the Heat. They have to get hot and they have to just ride like crazy momentum because, obviously Randall's out now and Brunson can only do so much. And give him a lot of credit for getting them to where they are. But in the playoffs, you also have to have talent in the NBA. Rarely does anything else win out. It can get you far enough, but I'd be surprised if the Knicks can knock off like a team like the Celtics just based on hustle and heart, because I think the Celtics, you would hope, would be able to. But
there's the rebounding. There's a legit star player. You do have some other things that they do that present issues. But again, being down.
That's why I'm saying they'd be a harder team than like Philly.
Yeah, there's a few landmines out there, but it's not, the field's not littered with them. You know what I mean? It's like, again, nothing's going to be easy. You're talking about getting to the NBA, finals.
Right.
It's not supposed to be a cakewalk. And I think people wanted to, because you don't want to deal with the stress of being upset that the Celtics aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is winning. Yeah.
What does 3 do to the Bucks like for the first round? Who are they matched up against? So are they going to play?
3 is going to put them. They're locked in against the 6. So the Bucks now play Indy. And this is exactly what the Bucks did not want. The Bucks
they got
Pacers.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah.
And the thing about Milwaukee,
and the Knicks and Philly, which is also funny if Philly wins that first game. So that's 2 of your nemesis, or 2 of those teams that if you rank the teams you least want to face throughout the playoffs, I think a lot of people would put Bucks, Knicks, Sixers in that pool of 3. Maybe some people have Indiana in there too. But of the 7 potential people you'll face at some point or another, I feel like that's the big 3. And it's likely, based off of seeding, one of those 2 are going to knock each other off in the first round, because it's going to be Knicks versus probably Sixers if they can take care of business and win that 7-8 game. So that helps. The Bucks are playing a nightmare scenario because the Pacers have not been fun for them, right? So that's interesting also. I mean, would it be shocking if you had upset everywhere outside of Boston? Like none of this, nothing would surprise me here.
And then the Celtics wind up playing like the Pacers in the conference finals.
Or Orlando or Cleveland or something weak,
Right. Yeah. Wouldn't be shocked. Would not be shocked by that. But it's it'd be kind of like a full circle moment, because the Celtics have had so many just disappointing, heartbreaking, like last year with Tatum getting hurt, minutes into that game 7, where most people, I think, reasonably felt that they were going to win that game if he's healthy. And so for them to have a postseason run where things just break their way, it happens. When you go back and you look at Golden State in their first championship run, and you go back and look at every single playoff series they played leading up to that first title, either a starter or a starting point guard for damn near every single team missed all or some of that postseason run. And when you're playing, and that was something they had no control over, it just broke that way. The Celtics might be looking at a similar fate for them. If the way the pairings are starting to look, they may very well wind up playing a team that is the perfect, ideal matchup for them each round. And by perfect and ideal, I'm talking, look, that would be perfect.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I wouldn't be scared of the Hawks. Come
on. So who, like, do you think Milwaukee ducked Philly here?
No.
The way they played down the stretch?
No, because there's no way they could have foreseen what Philly would do. Like for Philly to win not damn near, they won 8, 9 in a row. There's no way you could have predicted that if you're Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee made up their minds that, you know what, this is who we are. We're just gonna finish this thing out.
Milwaukee's just trying to get to the playoffs. I think
they're trying to get to the playoffs. Yeah, they want to reset. But
they do. But I mean, again, you've got the Giannis situation here too, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen.
No, I mean, he may not be able to play in the first round. I mean, that's not completely off the table, especially when you look at his injury and you look at similar injuries to other players who've missed significant time with a strain. Our good friend Marcus Smart, he missed 19 games with a similar injury. So it's not like Giannis getting on the floor is an absolute shoo-in. And if he doesn't play, that gives them cover for getting that ass knocked out in the first round, because then they'll just say, well, we didn't have our best player. That's why we lost, which is, sort of kind of true, but not really. Because I think they would have had their hands full with whether he plays or not.
It's crazy. It's pretty wide open. I mean, again, the Celtics, I think, have a distance between them and the field in the East. I think but the results of almost every other matchup here, I think it's really hard to predict. I mean, again, it's not just, just the standings alone. For 3 and 8 to have a 3-game, 2 and 8 to have a 4-game separation. These teams are all as good as, they're all kind of the same. It's really been the Celtics and everyone else for a lot of the year. I think that's how you have to view it entering the playoffs. So yeah, I guess it makes sense to look at matchups as we have been, and try to, figure out, which one is the best one. I'm not really sure. I agree with a comment we put up earlier, and it's what we've been saying all along. The only team that beats the Celtics is the Celtics, and that's fine. Recapping where we're at here, and again, we are locked into Sixers 7, Heat 8, and then the Hawks and Bulls in the 9-10. The loser of the Celtics Heat will play the winner of the Hawks Bulls, and whomever comes out of that game is the Celtics opponent in the first round, and what we believe is going to start on Sunday. Among the things we've talked about regarding the Celtics and how they're going to play and what could possibly derail this season that we're certain is destined for at least a run to the finals. You talk about Tatum and Brown. You talk about Joe and how he's been as a coach. And again, we'll talk about a lot of this stuff in previews as we get through the week. You also talk about the bench and how they're going to hold up when the pressure ratchets up from Pritchard, Hauser, and the like. Maybe Neemias Queta. And I do want to go back on a comment I said the other game, and I got laughed off the stage and maybe had to walk it back a little about Queta earning playoff minutes. I'm getting back to that in a little bit. I'm saving that.
Here
combo.
we go.
Saving
that for Bobby.
It, eh?
Saving it for Bobby.
Saving it. The funniest thing that happened to me all day today was Bobby texted me Luke's line, and then I looked in the box score and I was like, so he's just going to flat out pretend Queta didn't just friggin' have a month. But he did.
Yeah.
He did. It's exactly what he did. But we talk about the bench and their importance, particularly Hauser and Pritchard, who are the 7 and 8. And honestly, the rotation may stop there. As much as we're going to talk about Tillman and Queta or Cornette, that's really going to stop at 8. Here is Joe Mazzulla after the game talking about particularly those guys and their contributions and what they've meant.
They know what their role is. They know how to play the game. They know how to impact the game, and they're not defined by one thing. So they take just as much pride in their defense as they do in their offense. And so they're well coached by the player development staff. Great complementary pieces to the team, but at the same time, they know they can impact the game in different ways. And so as long as you play with that open mind, and they play with a high level of physicality and attention to detail, all those guys do. So it's good. Joe.
I am loving it.
Yeah,
I'm loving little Joe Mazzulla up on the stage there. I'm not gonna lie. He seems locked in and focused.
He's locked in.
Like Josue.
That's his mini-me, man. Looks just like Joe. Little Joe Mazzulla.
Like his daddy.
Josue, we've said some stuff, and probably already too much because there's not much left to say. But again, both talking about the potential playoff opponents, and we'll bring Bobby in and kind of have a little brief convo about that. We'll talk about Gorman because you guys were there, but just talk about what you saw tonight, non-Gorman, non-opponent related, because we'll hang on to those until Bobby gets in the mix, because I do want your take since you guys were down there.
Well, sending Luke Cornett's stat line over Queta today is insane. First of all, like, I can't believe that. Like, are you kidding me?
Wait,
Like,
did you say something about Luke's stat line over Queta's?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard
I should share screen, but it's a breach of trust, and I don't want to do that. But what I will say is somewhere around here, somewhere around 2:35 p.m., I've got the timestamps, Bobby sends 9-6-5 with 3 blocks for Luke. I was like, okay, cool.
Queta said, hold my beer. Went in there.
Yeah.
Did his thing.
And then Queta, I'm like, I'm not going to lie. We all paid loose attention to this game. And I'm like, I'm not really going to pay attention to what's happening here. Then I look at Queta. 19, 8 of 11, 9 rebounds in 20 minutes. Oh, no, we're missing the best. We're missing the best 6 blocks. We're missing the best stats. 6 blocks.
6 blocks, too.
He didn't okay. Well, we'll call it 20 minutes, but he did a little bit under 20 minutes. And like for me, maximizing your opportunities in short stints, even though 20 minutes isn't short, considered in the NBA, but in the playoffs, if you minimize that, I mean, I don't think like Queta wouldn't. I don't think he would shy away from that moment, to be honest. Now, again, like we talked about before, Cornette's going to get his shot at it. Obviously, he's earned that opportunity. He's earned that right, I should say. But in the playoffs, if something's not working, man, especially if it's your 4th guy, coming off the bench or whatever, that guy's replaceable. And I think Queta has shown a lot of. He's not afraid of that moment, but also like it's been consistent. Like these flirting with these double doubles and doing it, and whether it's 11 minutes of playing time or like 20 minutes today, but then nearly scoring 20 points, he made it look easy, man. And let's face it too. These are high percentage shots that he's seeking. Moves in the paint, which obviously, he's never going to be a focal point of the offense, but he's proven himself time and time again that he'll get that second chance opportunity. He'll finish it himself. Like he's not one of those bigs that's going to grab a rebound and look around and be like, who wants it? No, like if he sees it, he's going to seize that opportunity and score. And those are the type of guys that will surprise you if the number's called in the playoffs, whether it's a 7-minute stint or whether it's 11 or 12. I mean, that would be a huge boost from someone like Queta. Again, your 9th or 10th guy coming into the game and giving you the type of production in the playoffs. Like I don't think he's afraid of that. You know what I mean? I just don't. And not to say that Luke is, but the fact that Queta keeps doing this over and over again, doesn't matter who they're playing against, doesn't matter whether he's playing 9 minutes or 20, you're still getting that level of production. I say those are the guys that typically maximize those small opportunities. And I think that could happen in the playoffs for sure.
Bobby, I swear this wasn't timed for your entry. We haven't talked about him a split second. Josue came in on his own. I said, what do you want to talk about? And he went right for this. I'm just saying. Hold
on.
I don't want to start you off mad. I don't want to start you off mad.
No, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to badmouth him. I love him. I was thrilled when they signed him. I think he's awesome. I think he's going to continue to be awesome for them into the future. Let me just go around the circle right here. John, you think he's going to play?
See, you always pick the wrong question. That's not what we're talking about here. We're literally just talking here that like he's playing. I don't think anybody's going to play after. I don't think anybody plays after. I don't think anybody plays after 8. I really don't. I really don't.
Jimmy, you think he's going to play?
But again, why are we?
Bobby's like,
I think you might see him in some random small minutes, just like Cornet, maybe.
What?
Volume
in here. You might see him. You might see him barely. I don't know.
So Queta and Cornet are the same now.
I'm not saying they're the same.
No, they're not the same. They're so not the same, Bobby.
I think the argument all season long is they're not the same. Yeah.
Yeah. If Cornet isn't effective, Bobby, why would you just keep going back to him? So maybe they toss Queta in there and see if that's
no one is going to play. No one is going to play. I think
that's the most likely, and if someone does, it's going to be.
I think what we've been trying to say. I think Luke. I'll answer the question.
We triggered him.
I think Luke plays over Queta. I think what we were trying to say all season that given the opportunity, it's perhaps we could have actualized, and potentially tapped into a higher ceiling player that might be able to do more for you. But as I said, similar to the Rob conversation, with a player like Queta who lacks some refinement and discipline in certain ways, I think the tendency is to look at what they don't do instead of what they do. And as I've always said, elite skills to me are things that put you up and over the top, that are things that you can do. Neemias Queta can grab boards against anybody and block shots anywhere. There's a lot he can't do. We're talking about 9th man minutes. So you're not talking about starter potential, but it's the same types of conversations that led, I think, to Queta's kind of reduced role throughout the course of this year, plus this dumb juggle that you had to do with the 50 games and the up and down and the main. See, he's not even going to sit around for it. He doesn't want it.
We just look what you did, John. Look what you did. We could have had a nice, friendly show.
I didn't do anything. Josue's back. Let's do everybody. How many people we doing?
Wonder Power.
It's like
news team.
Yeah, Bobby or not? Where is he?
He's right there. What do you mean?
Is Bobby here?
Yeah.
Where am I?
He just keeps popping on.
He's not showing up on mine.
I see Bobby.
No, he's not showing up.
Actually,
we can hear you, but I can't see you because you have the wrong thing on, John. You got to do this.
Is this day one? What's going on?
Oh, there we go.
Producer boy. So Bobby, I think what we were trying to say is, I think if they gave more of a
Bobby,
what if
Bobby on the phone?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Bobby got Bobby in the car.
Yeah, Bobby from Plymouth. What's going on?
What if Mihailuk went off the last 2 games? Would you be saying, "Ooh, Hauser, Mihailuk"? It's the same thing.
Bobby. Yes, because it's exactly what we're talking about. Because we saw Svi do things all year long, and it's the last 2 games that tipped it.
Kate had 2 stints during the regular season of like 3-4 games where he played decent. I think it showed that he's good enough to be on the roster, which is what they gave him here. But I don't know where we're getting playoff minutes from, especially when Cornet.
I'd start him.
Played the whole season as the backup.
I would start him too.
Look at the stat line.
And again, I just wanted to put you guys on the spot because I'm not going to badmouth them. I
didn't even mention the 6 blocks. Like, look at the stat line.
No one's bad-mouthing him.
Yeah.
No.
We're lifting up Queta. What?
No, his computer's so mad at us right now.
See what happens to Bobby's brain? It just
completely his laptop is so mad at us.
Bobby went haywire.
We really can't start Bobby appearances like this because it
You
rattles.
did
But like
it.
you said, John, this wasn't
I
planned.
did
It just
not.
happened.
Josue did it.
It's
No,
Josue's
no,
fault.
no. I didn't know
Josue's
Bobby was gonna
fault.
pull up 10 seconds after I did. So it's not. It just happened to. We were talking Queta, and you talked about that text message, which I thought is crazy. Like to send that
You know what
stat
happens
line
when we bring up Luke. You
after
know
what
this is gonna
Queta did.
happen. You know he's a little sensitive about that.
Bring Bobby back and let's do a little kumbaya Mike Gorman talk and then
Sunday,
move on.
casual Sunday.
There you go.
You know,
Damn it,
Let's bring Bobby
Josue.
back.
Bobby,
On Mike
you're
Gorman's
not
day.
even here. You're not even here now.
Yeah. And again, I know people, it is what? It's my fault.
Yeah, no.
I'm
You're
blaming
right, Noah.
Josue. I'm gonna go with Josue on this one.
Josue like lit the match, but John was there like fanning the flame like as aggressively as he could. That's what
What's
happened.
Aggressively.
what am I
fanning
gonna
the
do?
flame.
Not
Yeah.
talk about it?
I mean,
You-
it's a legit conversation.
Anyway,
Again, this
I
isn't
think-
like,
I-
oh,
I-
Luke's going to
fair.
be benched game 1, but hey, it's worth talking about.
Bobby's right. Like it's far more likely Luke plays because of the trust. It really
Yeah.
is.
Oh, of course.
Far more likely. Far more
But
likely.
if that trust is lost, that's the copy here.
But you know what though,
Yeah.
Queta? What if they were just keeping Queta under wraps? Like they're just gonna unleash him in the playoffs and just throw everybody off. There's not a lot of film on him. He's got a high motor, he's aggressive, he's physical. You might need a guy to come in and just shake things up.
And this is what it comes down to. They don't want guys who get lost on defense. It was the Rob. It's why the Rob comp is so apt here. Because that was it. It was like, I can't have you just not having a clue what you're doing here. It can kill the whole thing. And that's what it comes down to is Luke's more responsible. It's not about physical ceiling and like what they can do here, but it should be in the sense that like you want to tap into that because you want more better, right? You know, like if something could be better, you want more of that. It didn't happen this year. It's not going to happen in the playoffs. They're not going to unleash Queta as a secret weapon in the playoffs. It's a silly conversation. Again, we're talking about ninth man minutes, but it's fun to throw out there. Like, could you live if you're getting your ass kicked or you wanted to get, you wanted something that Queta can bring to the table? Would you throw him out there and say, "Give me that energy. Go crash the glass. Go friggin', stand in there"? I don't know.
Well, we're not even talking about.
By the way, Matt, I meant to say exactly that in that exact way. But yes, you want more, better. Yeah.
Right. We're not even talking about Xavier, who got you 9 points in like less than 6 minutes. How many centers on this team can do that? Like, regardless of whether it's the Washington Wizards, aka G League Ignite 2.0 squad out there.
For real.
It doesn't. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the playoffs because I don't think any of those guys are going to play. But the thing is, that there's certain things they can bring to the table that if you are getting your ass kicked on the boards or you need someone to get you a bucket around the basket or just be physical defensively, not necessarily, locking kids up, but just being physical and aggressive. You got two guys that at that position can do that. And guess what? Neither one of them makes lemon squares. So,
damn,
they don't.
They don't. Stray for
and I love lemon squares.
Ouch. We talked about.
I'm sure.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, that's it.
Facts, my dog.
We talked about this earlier in terms of things that are actually going to have an impact on the playoffs.
All right,
and
let's talk about that.
That's pressure, whether or not they are going to feel pressure entering as the prohibitive favorite, number 1 seed, steamrolling everybody, historic offense, fourth highest point differential or fifth highest point differential of all time. All of these things pointing towards wagon, like this team should absolutely roll. But again, there's pressure on them because nothing short of at least a finals appearance is acceptable this season. Mazzulla talked about that as well. Here's Joe.
It's going to be pressure every year, no matter where you coach. So I don't know, feeling it or whatever, but when I wake up every day, everybody in the locker room wants to be the absolute best. So that will always be there. It'll be there next year. It'll be there the year after. Whether we win or lose, it'll be there. If we win 4 in a row, it'll be there. It doesn't matter. So I know that that's a huge trigger point to create like a narrative or
The
like a
kid
high
is
level of
got the same
anxiety or
hand
like a,
issues as
something to
Joe.
do, but there's always going to be
Damn,
pressure.
you see
That's
that?
just how it
Joe,
works.
I'm the
It'll
head
never
kid.
go away, no matter what.
No,
you do.
he's just
So
following
it's
Dad.
important to understand that.
I love this. I freaking love this, man.
If he starts doing the eye squint, I don't know.
They are a
No,
spitting
he's
image
fine.
for sure.
He's fine.
Kid's rubbing the hair.
The kid's great. He's
I
just
love that.
he's like, Dad's doing it, I'm doing it.
I'm
The
doing it
kid's
too.
great. Love the kid. I love that. I love him. Bobby's back. So pressure, it's a non-answer. It's a non-answer on Joe there. Pressure all the time. Not really. There's a shit ton of pressure now. This last year's pressure is not the same as this year's pressure. Is not the same. Yes, of course, there's pressure. Nobody wants to lose. This is, if anything short of a championship, you failed. Heads will roll.
And he
People won't
acknowledged that on
accept
the
it.
radio last week in that long hit he did. They're embracing that pressure. They have to acknowledge it. It's there, and that there is a significant amount to win a championship this year. And I think he's had some interesting comments about the playoffs over the last month or so here. First with, we got to go to the bench. We've been doing it all year. We're going to continue to do it in the playoffs. More recently, it's been playoffs aren't any different than the regular season. We're going to approach it the same way, same preparation. It's the same game, same keys to win are going to prove to win those games. The only difference is the level of stress and the environment. So they're going to try to replicate that this week, he said, in practices. I believe there's going to be 3 of them this week, pretty intense ones, he said. And then it's go time, and it's going to be go time. Here we go. 4 really good teams as far as first round standards go here. You didn't get that Pacers drop. You didn't get that Magic drop that looked like it was going to happen. That's what I would have predicted coming into the day. But here you go. You could be facing Philly round 1. Let's say Embiid sits on Tuesday, as he could now. He missed today's game. I know they're saying he's going to play, but let's say he's not ready to go. He drops. They win the second game. Boom. Embiid and Philly versus Celtics round 1. Same with the Heat, as we've talked about. Team that beat you last year, round 1. So I love this. It's go time. There's no illusions about what you're going up against in this first round. Maybe the Hawks or Bulls sneak through. I don't see it. But I think you're going to be in the high stress, high intensity, pressure-filled first round that's going to challenge
The fight
you.
is on. The fight is on for
Love
round
this.
1. Round
Flippity-dippity.
1. I love that. Like I said, round
Thanks.
1.
This
This is perfect. Get ready.
You're
Celtics
starting your
Heat,
bike ride with Hills.
Celtics
It's round
Sixers.
1. They're getting right into it. Yeah.
And I know you didn't love that, Jimmy, but you need a kick in the ass going in. Like, you need some motivation. A team like Philly, like Miami, that you're not going to walk into and think you're just going to beat automatically. I don't think there's any way, as much as the Celtics have done that at different points in the past, that you can see Embiid on the other side. You can see Butler on the other side and stroll in there and give it anything less than your best effort.
No, I mean, they have to. I mean, I said it earlier on this show, Bobby. I actually think the Celtics would roll over the Heat. Now, when it comes to Philly, I think that'll be a little bit more difficult. Obviously, I expect them to beat either team here, but I'm not worried about Miami this year. Queta versus Embiid. I just think
this is their secret weapon. They held them back all year. Now that they got
that's
Embiid.
it. They're about to unleash him on Butler.
Forget about Tom Brady joining your team late in the year. Neemias freaking Queta coming up from Maine to completely change the dynamic of the season. That's what's it.
He's gonna win the main champion.
Yeah,
he's gonna win the main championship tomorrow.
He's gonna come in with a belt over both shoulders.
And then he's gonna lead the Boston Celtics, to the title too. That would be something. We've never seen that before.
And never will again.
We've never seen a guy like Queta before. That's the thing.
Yeah, you're probably looking at Nurse or Spo in the first round too. And again, for those Joe detractors out there, I know everyone's a little concerned about getting out coached and how's that going to be. I think we all agree Joe's matured a great deal in the. I think we all agree Joe's matured, year 1 over year 2, and obviously that's to be expected. No one in his position, that was not an easy path he had last year, being handed the reins the way he was moments prior to the season starting and being like, just go, do your best. I know you've never done this, but it'll be fine. So yes, better. But it comes down to, again, I think what we debate all the time, regular season philosophy, Joe, which is something that's built to have success over a long timeline, versus a living, breathing series where things change, and sometimes what you're doing might need tweaking or adjusting, and sometimes just sticking with your plan before you realize you need a different one could be the difference between winning the series and losing a series. And I think that's always part of the concern here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I also realize these can be lazy narratives here, but I think it's real in the sense that, like, you want to make sure that you can roll with the punches a little bit here. You guys think Joe's ready to kind of do that here in the playoffs? Because I think they've done it through the back half of the year, and I actually do think the experimenting has been worthwhile in terms of trying to win different ways and trying different combinations and rotations. I'm hoping that that was so they could kind of be prepared for anything, right? Because they could almost, it's almost like they could do whatever they wanted all season long. So I mean, I hope so.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, 100%. I agree with you, John. I think it's one of those things where, and I mentioned this before throughout the season, why I think Joe is so fixated on executing certain plays and sets and just finding different ways to be even better overall as a team because of what happened last year. And one day he'll tell us completely, I think he'll be a little bit more open at some point throughout his coaching career about just what transpired throughout that series against the Miami Heat. I really do think it just threw him, I don't want to say threw him off, but it really made him remember, it really put him in this mindset going into the season saying, like, don't ever forget what happened in those 3 games. How you can lose 3 games in completely different ways and, be on the brink of elimination when it just seemed like the sky was falling. You know what I mean? Where it seemed like everything happened so fast. And when
it was a wake-up call.
It was a humongous wake-up call, Bobby. And I think there's no, I mean, he even joked about if that were to happen in the first round, if he would have still been the head coach, you know what I mean? I think that was a little glimpse. Yeah, that was pretty much a glimpse of what he was thinking going into the offseason, just how close this thing could have been all over. And the Celtics organization decided to go in a different direction, but obviously they made the right choice. They complimented him with a group of with the coaching staff that's not only experienced, but really fit what this team is trying to do. Obviously the roster changes, the enhanced roster, I should say, obviously helps in a big way. But I think as a coach, really matured, and from just a standpoint of how to approach a game and finding different ways to be effective. And obviously, it's a collective effort between him and his guys and his coaching staff. But Joe Mazzulla, I mean, he made tremendous strides this year as a head coach, not just from an X and O standpoint, but just from the way he talks to the media, the way he condones himself. I think all that resonates in the locker room with his guys, So
he showed a flexibility.
I'm expecting a different, more effective approach for sure. And I think Joe Mazzulla is comfortable and he's ready for this, given everything that happened, everything that transpired this year, and of course what happened throughout the playoffs last year.
He showed a flexibility this year that should be applauded. Started the year talking about defense. Remember, he would never address defense last year, and then later admitted that was a mistake. The flexibility to go in the post, to have his players post up more often and utilize that as a huge part of the offense, I think deserves recognition as well as his utilization of the bench. And it's going to be interesting, John. Last year, that bench was tight. You didn't see Hauser. You didn't see Pritchard. You didn't see numerous guys who played during the regular season at different points. He basically just went max minutes for the starter and cut off the bench entirely. And that's something he switched up this year too. I think you guys talked about it on the last show you were on, John, that last year it was Tatum 40 minutes and Brown 40 minutes and Horford 35. Now you have a bench that's played all year, that's been integrated. It's probably one of the third or fourth biggest questions going into the playoffs. I think there's some bigger ones on how the bench is going to perform because, again, I believe they're going to translate. But it is something to watch, and that's a big difference in Joe this year over last year is that he trusts those guys, and he might roll with them on a hot stretch. Might keep a guy on the bench.
There's options. I think we're going to get deeper into the playoffs for sure throughout the week, and we will announce a schedule for a few Garden Report preview editions as we kind of whittle down the field and see what we say. We'll have an opponent eliminated on what? When's the East first play on Tuesday?
Tuesday, and then Friday's the we'll know for sure by Friday.
Yeah, so we'll have one team eliminated, so you'll kind of narrow the field some, and you'll have two teams eliminated, and you'll have a good idea of who you're going to play, and we kind of break down those matchups as we get closer with game one expected on Sunday. Before we go, let's do a quick whip around here and talk about Mike Gorman, honored after 43 years? Is that the number? 43 years on the Celtics bench, and again, you can be as old as me and remember nothing but Mike Gorman calling games. It's insane to have that type of longevity. And I think that's kind of my best way to describe Mike is a fixture. And it's just, you almost can't imagine him not being there because he's always been there. And he's always been calling the games. And, it's really a remarkable career to be able to do it and still do it at a high level for that long. My favorite thing about Mike is I think he embodies less is more, which is something I think a lot of play-by-play guys could adopt a little bit, which is sometimes it's the game, that's the show, not the announcers. And Mike always understood that. He always came along as very affable. There was no me aspect to anything that he did. He knew he was there as a steward, to carry the game and to just be there to kind of help make the experience enjoyable for you, not to be the show. Obviously he had a great partner in Tommy who would provide the hijinks, and that made it easier there too, because then he didn't have to necessarily do it. But again, a great career. So you guys were there. What was the whole thing like? Sherrod, Josue, Bobby, you guys got to see the ceremony. Give us your thoughts.
Well, I'm the only one that didn't grow up in New England listening to him day in, day out, but covering the NBA for a number of years before I came to Boston and listening to him on the radio and seeing some of the other stuff that he did, when he was doing Big East stuff, even back in the day, consistently elite is kind of how, when I think of Mike, just everything was day in, day out, relatively the same, and it was always done at a high level. And the thing that kind of jumped out to me, and John, you kind of alluded to this, he understood what team dynamics was about. He understood the role that he had to play in order for the team to be successful. I found it very interesting working with him when I was at NBC Boston, how we'd have these long conversations before the game, and then I would be kind of listening to the broadcast, and he would just astutely know when to throw in a little this, a little that, a little this, and and then Tommy would go on and on about whatever was on Tommy's mind, and he embraced that. He never resisted that. He never fought that. He never played the "aw shucks, what about me? Look at me" game. And to me, he was a consummate professional, and he will definitely be missed by me and many others for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just the soundtrack of our childhood. A lot of us growing up in this area is not only fans of Celtics, NBA fans tuning into the game. I mean, it was Mike's calls that got you on the edge of your seat, and he would let that moment breathe. And he would, the gut for the game. The Paul Pierce years, the Big 3 years. I mean, especially in the beginning where the team, let's face it, they weren't great. A lot, but you gravitate towards the team and towards the game, and all of a sudden, you find yourself hooked. At least that was the case for me. And Mike was always the soundtrack, the background through those games, alongside, of course, Tommy Heinsohn. And for me to transition to Celtics reporter, journalist, Mike was always willing to give you 5 minutes if you just wanted to catch up, or he'll chime in on a certain topic that may not even have to do with basketball. You share a good laugh with him. He was just super humble, man. That's what's really cool about Mike. But today was such a special day for me because I think about those years. I love that he got up there and did it halftime. A short interview, but just enough to give everyone a sense of who Mike was as someone who, as he put it, didn't have a left hand and found out that his future was going to be as a broadcaster, and kind of just took off from there. His opportunities. It was in a nutshell. Did it really quickly, but it was short, sweet. It was emotional. As soon as his voice cracked, man, it got got my eyes to fill up because it's just it really embodies the ultimate professional and someone that grew up in Boston, man. I grew up in Boston. He's from Dorchester. You know what I mean? He's from Boston. I love that about him. You know, coming from a blue collar town, a blue collar city like Boston. You don't grow up thinking, man, one day I'm gonna do this, you know, for a living. Speaking of, it's Mike Gorman, right? And for him to go out and do it for 40 years and just impact so many generations of Celtics fans growing up, and it's truly incredible. And I'm gonna miss him. I really am. I'm sure he'll come back and watch games here now and then. That's what he told me, at least. You know, he loves the game so much. He'll always watch the game, and every once in a while he'll step in here. I mean, I look forward to those moments for sure, man.
Awesome, Bobby.
Well said, Josue.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks. I try to make that short as possible.
he built it and did it his own way. Yeah, sort of like, you know, someone building a business without any experience or school or anything like that versus someone who goes to business school and, you know, does it the cookie cutter way. And like you said, John, there are a lot of, you know, cookie cutter broadcasts out there who sound the same and, you know, do things the way it's done by the book. He did it different. I don't think you'll hear someone quite like him again. And exactly like you said, not because he had any crazy calls. He had a few taglines and things like that. And it was funny hearing everybody try to come up with their favorite call, because you do have those handful that stick out. But it was mostly him letting the game breathe, the moment breathe, talking when he's supposed to, not talking when he's supposed to. Tommy, him trying to orchestrate Tommy at times and have him
an amazing gift.
Supposed to. He was like the orchestrator of the game.
Yeah, being able to deal with Tommy being bananas
and scowl too,
and going off into a rail like that's the worst guy, and then to watch the replay and be like, yeah, Tommy, that was a foul, but like just let Tommy just figure it out on his own. Like he would, you know, like
it hasn't been the same without both.
Being able to deal with crazy is a talent, and he kind of did it without like embarrassing them or showing them up or, you know, or calling everybody out.
My favorite line from Tommy. My favorite line from Tommy was always, "This is bogus." Like everything was bogus. When he dropped that word, you knew he was upset. Yeah.
I'll say too, he was such a gentleman, obviously too. So when he talked or said something, it always stood out. If he had a take or an opinion or something about the team that he wanted to get off his chest, because he didn't do it often. And he did tell a great story today about that moment in 2021 where he said the team's not passing, the ball sticking, and all that, and he was getting a lot of grief for it. He was a little nervous maybe that he had went over the line. And then Wick went on the radio and was like, yeah, he's been here 30 years. He knows what he's talking about. So that was a fun story he told today. But there's a lot to love. As Drew said throughout different points this year, he's not trying to replace Gorman. He's not trying to be Gorman because he can't. So it's going to be different. And especially without Mike and Tommy, it's too bad they couldn't go out together here. And obviously the pandemic and stuff like that made it a bit of an unfitting ending for them. Tommy passing away when he did there just before. So that's tough. He mentioned him today, said he thinks about him all the time. And, you know, just got 3-4 standing ovations, maybe more. So just iconic. They're probably going to put a banner or something up there for him one day. And it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, Jimmy? I think you guys did a great job of summing up just about everything that I would you know, concur with. You know, like Josue, you know, we kind of grew up in the same
but
era.
You also worked with him too, Jimmy.
Yeah,
you have the personal experience.
Yeah. I mean, just similar to Sherrod, obviously Sherrod and you, John, you guys are a lot probably more hands-on and direct with him, but just being able to watch him go about his business from afar and see the preparation. And you guys talked about how he knew when to speak. He knew when his opinion was wanted. He knew when it didn't really need to be. His ability to understand the moment, let Tommy sort of be Tommy and go off the rails and be that, you know, entertaining, energetic guy. I mean, can you imagine if Johnny Most was sitting next to Tommy Heinsohn? I mean, those guys would have had heart attacks on sight every game. But so, you know, for Mike to be able to reel that in, tell the story, explain what's going on, be informative, but not over the top. I just go back to and just growing up as a Celtics fan, I probably watched hundreds of games before I got to one. And so you grow up with that voice, you know, you're growing up with that in a way, like he's in your living room, right? Every game, if you're a Celtics fan, him and Tommy, you know, whether or not you're locked into the game, you can hear it in the background. I'm sure it's a calming presence for a lot of people. It's almost like a white noise. So it's going to be a big change. And there really are only a handful of broadcasters who can say that, who have been able to, stick their flag in the ground and keep it there for as many years as he has. And it's a part of the game, win or lose. You felt comfortable watching the game, knowing that he was the guy on the other end, sort of painting the picture and being the eyes that, if you weren't at the game, he could tell you what you weren't seeing, or he could sort of break it down in a way. And again, his rapport with Tommy is, they're the best, the best that I can ever imagine. Calling a game together, they just played off each other so well, and it's very bittersweet. Obviously the way it ended for Tommy and him, but also just, Mike is still so good at what he does. You almost wish that he would go a couple more years, but you also understand that, he's been doing it for a long time, and he wants to go out on top, and it's good to see him go out that way. And like you said, guys, he's not going to disappear. He's a fan of the game. He's a fan of the organization, of the city. I'm sure the Celtics will want to keep him involved in community events and things of that nature. But we'll miss his voice. We'll miss his presence, and nothing but positive things to say about him. And yeah, from a just perspective of watching him professionally, was honored to even just be a small part of something that he was, being a part of that in some capacity, but more so just being a fan of the game. And I think he's created a lot of Celtics fans. He probably doesn't even realize that, just by the way he's drawn people into the game. And so that's a hell of a thing to be able to say.
Yeah. And another element to his game that he added late in his career, a friggin' awesome radio guest. And you get to see, you see him showcase personality he doesn't get to as much, being casual and talking, and you realize how quick and interesting and funny he is with those sorts of things, and able to tell stories and able to be loose and speak off the cuff. I know he said a few things that have ruffled a feather or two, but I like call it how you see it. Look, these guys are team employees. So you've got, guys saying we and pom pom. Look, he would say yes when shots would go in. The voice of a broadcaster, a home broadcaster, is supposed to get excited and raise the energy and level for when the things are going well for the team, but not to be an apologist or wave pom-poms all the time. Right. You're just supposed to call the game, and Mike was good at that. It wasn't it was a home broadcaster. It's an art that can go in a lot of different directions. You're not there supposed to be mad. You're not supposed to be.
He ripped the team in 2021.
Yeah, you're not supposed to make excuses. You call it and you elevate it, because the fans are excited when things happen that are good, and you're lifting it up to make the moment bigger for them as best you can. You're not there to pretend shit isn't happening, and Mike was good at that. He didn't. It's not like he would.
Yeah, you don't want like brainwashed type.
Yeah, you don't want that. And then you would see, like, when he would talk about stuff, I thought it was great. So he played it straight. He played it real. Hats off to Mike. As Jimmy said, Sherrod, Jimmy and I all had the pleasure and honor of working alongside him. A pro's pro. Josue Bobby grew up, and as we said, you got to be a pretty old dude to remember anybody other than Mike Gorman, calling Celtics games. And so he's been here doing it forever. So again, congrats, Mike, on an amazing career. From those of us at the Garden Report, I know the fans and the watchers and the viewers here, well-deserved honor. And again, as you said, there's still more games to go, so you'll get to hear Mike Gorman's voice through the first round of the playoffs. And as Jimmy said, I do believe there's a chance that you will see more Mike throughout. I wouldn't be surprised if he's popping in and out of the playoffs. You might get more
opinionated Mike, you know what I mean?
And you might get opinionated Mike, who I love. Once again, Celtics will face either the 76ers, Heat, Hawks, or Bulls in the first round. They win another one with the Stay Ready crew, beating the Washington Wizards 132.
We didn't even talk Pritchard, but shout out Pritchard.
64-18 for the season. Unbelievable. Playoffs are next. Garden Report is shifting over into playoff mode. We are polishing hard hats. We are getting ready, getting new equipment if we need to. Yeah, we're going to get it. Bob.
Miami, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Bobby wants Miami so bad because he loves going to Miami. I'm going to send somebody else, Bobby. How about that?
All right, I'll go.
Jimmy.
Fine, I'll go.
Send Jimmy.
Jimmy, you want to do all this work?
All right.
You and Amit don't get to go. I don't trust it anymore.
If me and Amit went, somebody would need to pull us up. There'd be a bail situation, I think.
And I'll tell you the same thing I told Ahmed. I'm not bailing your ass out. So just don't even think about it.
Be serious, Jimmy. Sherrod's serious.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Very
good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff all season long. Good stuff from you guys. Hats off to the Garden Report crew. We're expecting more of you. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, wake everybody up.
Playoffs. The numbers start to pop up. All the casuals are coming out now.
The real stuff happens, but you guys have hung with us all the way. We do appreciate that. So we will see you later on this week. As we said, we're going to do some shows previewing what's going on and a couple of theme shows.
Tuesday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if you see us Tuesday. But yeah, until then, thank you guys for watching all season long, all 82, and we will see you guys.
Are you going to Maine? Bobby, you still going?
Jimmy, he just stomped on my goodbye.
Wait, Ahmed's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game. Forfeit's out. I think it's an option. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.